As we're looking at this learning that we do as creatures being brought into the world, as I've suggested, we're looking at various aspects. It kind of we're circling this active learning that we do in such a complex, rich way to understand what the various ways in which that learning, that early experience contributes to the need for therapy and the working out of emotional problems. And in my experience, one of the central experiences in this dialogue between caregivers and children that influences whatever is subsequently going to occur is the need for what I would call being gotten. And whenever I use that expression with clients of mine, I have never had the experience that they have reacted to it. And so I want to talk about that as central to the experience that goes on between caretakers and children, and a central contribution to whether or not it's being a positive experience or not. Now, I think the feeling of being gotten is a multidimensional thing. It's both intellectual, it's physical, it's emotional, it's the whole intuitive process that we're talking about. But it comes down to being accurately understood for what you as a child really feel, what you're really doing, what you're really about in any given situation. In other words, if the adults have enough richness in themselves to recognize, take in, understand whatever the children are doing, and they can express that in a way that the child can feel taken in, can feel gotten, understood, I think it's a powerful experience in terms of recognizing the ability to be yourself. In other words, if I've done something really special with my coloring book, and my father or my mother or my aunt or my uncle or anybody looks at it and says, wow, that's really a lovely job. It's great the way you made the red on that kangaroo or whatever, you know. And I, as a child, had value and put real energy into making my kangaroo red, and I feel that that's being praised, then I will take that in and I will feel the connection between the adult and myself. I will feel the affirmation of what I was doing, and I will feel my ability to choose, my ability to select colors, my sensitivity about coloring books in the first place, to all be affirmed, you see. On the other hand, if the adult says, with the best will in the world now, and this is again that area where they're doing something and they may not know it, oh, well, you know, kangaroos aren't red. You shouldn't have made that kangaroo red because kangaroos are never red. Then the child will take that message in. Oh, my God, I don't do things right. I don't color correctly. My love for red must be a mistake, and so on. Now, obviously, that's a silly example, and I mean it to be. But the point is, it's exactly around such silly examples that the experiences are conveyed. Never mind more serious things. I see what you're doing. I understand that it really mattered to you whether or not your teacher said that in class. Oh, I see that you like that little boy. I see that you like that little girl. And it's lovely that you do that. But wait a while, you see, and that kind of thing. And the number of jarring experiences where the child feels mismatched and not seen and not taken in versus the number of experiences of feeling known, feeling seen, feeling taken in will be a major factor in whether or not the basic training, as I like to call it, that we need for our lives is really effective or not. And it's clear to me that more often than not, the more extreme the lack of sympathy is, the more extreme the dissonance is, the more hurtful the upbringing will be and the more emotional problems there will eventually be. I had a client that I began working with a few years ago, and this person had seen any number of therapists before. And I was listening in the very first session to what this person was saying. And I listened for a while, listened for a while, listened for a while. And again, now I'm coming from the perspective of every one of us grows into life with a whole battery of needs that need to be met. And at the end of about 20 minutes of hearing this person talk to me, I turned and I said, you sound to me like an emotionally abused child, like an abused child. Well, this person exploded and was as enthusiastic I've ever experienced in the first session, because none of the previous therapists said that. And that person never felt recognized and never felt connected with. But here I am in the very first session, and I'm listening to what this person's saying, and I'm saying that, and all of a sudden, that sense of being gotten, being understood, for really gotten for what the feeling was there. Now, Heinz Kohut, when he talked about therapy, talked about empathy, and I was attracted to the field and learned about that kind of therapy because I was so excited about that dimension. But I think he could have said more, again, about what that is, because it's not just a matter of resonance of feeling. I think that empathy is when I have listened to my own feelings sufficiently and studied myself sufficiently inside of myself to know the dimensions of my own feeling, and then respond with that knowledge, with that awareness to whatever's being said to me. So it's an as they say today, intersubjective. It's a mutually created thing. It's not just me as a kind of scientist listening objectively to data over there. It's not going to feel that way. It's when the words work, it's when the tone works, it's when the actual emotional content feels like that kind of being gotten, or that sort of recognition, you see, actually operates, that you feel it. So what I'm saying about that is that that kind of awareness is a very important part of the way we're trained to be ourselves. It's crucial to the act of instruction, the interaction between ourselves and our caregivers when we're in the early stages of learning it. And to the degree in which there's any kind of screw up about that being gotten, feeling truly understood and taken in, affirmed for what one is really doing or saying, any kind of deficiency of that contributes to later emotional needs, later problems that don't come around. Well, I thought I was doing a lovely thing to paint my kangaroo red, but I just had better not do that ever again. And some form of that stays in our body for our whole lives, you see. And then later in the therapy session, it's when that is heard and that can come forward and be affirmed that the therapy can be effective. If it's not there, there can be sympathy, there can be a positive feeling, but some very important aspect of what needs to be done in therapy isn't happening unless the individual can come forward and feel there's a manifestation of what he or she really is, really feels, really is about. And the more that the real me can come forward and be recognized, the more I will feel that the therapy is effective. Is that the only part of it? No, but it's a major central part of it as far as I am concerned. And the need for that is a major aspect of making talk therapy effective. And the reason that talk therapy is in doubt today, in my opinion, is because we don't emphasize enough the need for that in the dialogue. And so as a result, comes in the exploitation of pills and all these other medicines that theoretically are going to cure this medical problem, which isn't a medical problem at all. It's a problem of what I have learned about being myself as a creature, and that now needs to be heard in a more effective way than it was heard originally. That's what we're essentially doing, in my opinion, to make talk therapy effective.